Guantanamo is not necessary to keep America safe. It is expensive. It is inefficient. It hurts us in terms of our international standing. It lessens cooperation with our allies on counterterrorism efforts. It is a recruitment tool for extremists. It needs to be closed.
President Obama back in May of 2013 listing his laments about the prison at GITMO. To this day, he's still trying to shut it down. And although our president may not see the importance of that facility, a new report issued by the Director of National Intelligence may keep GITMO's doors from closing. For more on this developing story, we're very pleased to be joined by nationally syndicated columnist and editor-in-chief of CNN News, CNS, an important distinction, CNSnews.com, Terry Jeffrey, and we're rejoined at Newsmax Washington by Jack Bergman. So, Terry, this new report shows us, 116 of those released have, quote, re-engaged in terrorist or insurgent activities. If this is the case, so many have gone back to the battlefield, back to jihad, why is our commander-in-chief still trying to close down GITMO?
Well, his policy is not rational, J.D. That report, by the way, is required by law from the Director of National Intelligence. He does it every 6 months, and the key assessment in the current report that came out last week is the DNI says if additional detainees are transferred out of GITMO, some of them will return to the battlefield. There's no qualification of it. The assessment is some of them will. So if Obama releases more, we released 33 last year, some of those will go back to terrorism and insurgencies and quite possibly kill Americans. So, you know, these are unlawful enemy combatants. Historically, this type of person has been tried in a military tribunal. What ought to be done, in my view, is they should all be tried in military tribunals. If they're not guilty, they should be released. If they're guilty, they should be detained. It's as simple as that.
Terry, let me ask you, politically, this seems like a classic case of the old issue, you know, you want the issue but not the result. Isn't it the case that Obama just wants to continue to talk about the boogeyman Guantanamo to appease the left, while he really might not have any intention of closing it? The president seems to want his cake and eat it too. What do you think of the politics of this?
I think that's a possible interpretation. I will say this. One of the things the report deals with is the fact that on January 22nd, 2009, which is 2 days after he was initially inaugurated as president, President Obama issued an executive order saying that GITMO would be closed within a year and setting up a system for vetting the people they were going to release. We now know he hasn't done that, and clearly he's not going to close GITMO during his term in office. So I think, you know, it's a salutary thing that to some degree the Obama administration is grappling with reality. They can't let all these people go. On the other hand, they did release 33 last year. The DNI said his initial report, which was released in 2010, that they saw about a 2.5-year lag time before the first indications that a GITMO release person had returned to terrorism or insurgency. So the folks released last year, we may not know until Obama's out of office whether they're back as terrorists or killing people in insurgencies.
Terry and Jack, let's take a listen to what a former, or actually an Iraq War veteran currently serving in the U.S. Senate had to say. That would be Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. And here's what he said at an Armed Services Committee hearing about this whole notion of moving prisoners out of GITMO.
In my opinion, the only problem with Guantanamo Bay is there are too many empty beds and cells there right now. We should be sending more terrorists there for further interrogation to keep this country safe. As far as I'm concerned, every last one of them can rot in hell. But as long as they don't do that, then they can rot in Guantanamo Bay.
So, Terry, is he right? Should all the beds and all the cells at GITMO be full right now?
Well, you know, ironically, J.D., another thing President Obama has been doing, not so much recently as in previous years, is using drone strikes to go after terrorists and just kill them remotely rather than capturing them. Now, one of the problems with that is, you know, we learned before the Iraq War that our intelligence wasn't good in Iraq. We didn't have diplomatic relations with Iraq. According to a later Senate Intelligence Committee report, we had 0 human intelligence sources in Iraq. So we didn't know what was going on there. One of the things we got from detainees by actually capturing terrorists is we were able to interrogate them. We were able to get good intelligence. It helped, for example, lead to our ability to get bin Laden. So I think, yes, we should, where we can, where it's legitimate, if we can detain people who have intelligence about terrorist activities against the United States, that's a good thing. So, yes, I do believe we should be capturing more terrorists where it's appropriate.
About 2.5 minutes remain, gentlemen, and let's switch topics, Terry, to the national debt. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew wrote to congressional leaders last week informing them our nation would hit the debt ceiling on March 16th. Let's listen to what Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell had to say this weekend on Meet the Press.
I made it very clear after the November election, we're certainly not going to shut down the government or default on the national debt. We'll figure some way to handle that, and hopefully it might carry some other important legislation that we can agree on in connection with it.
Quick correction, that's Meet the Press from CBS. But the point remains, here's Mitch McConnell rolling over again.
Right, JD, and roll over is a good term. I was just looking at the daily Treasury statement Treasury puts out every day. The first one for March showed that so far in this fiscal year, which started on October 1st, the Treasury has had to sell $3 trillion in new securities, debt, for the United States. Why that much in that short period of time? Because the Treasury is constantly rolling over the debt. A lot of our debt now is in very short-term instruments, bills and notes that don't last like a 30-year bond does. We pay a lower interest. But the problem with that is when our customers, the Chinese, the Russians, others who are buying our debt, think that they need to get a higher yield from that debt, the interest rates are going to spike. We're going to have to roll over this massive amount of debt in a short period of time, and the cash interest we have to pay out every year is going to skyrocket. We're just about to cross the 13 trillion mark in terms of marketable debt. The whole debt is a little over 18 trillion. Part of that is intergovernmental debt, money we borrowed from the Social Security program and other government trust funds. But 13 trillion is marketable debt. Those are bills, notes, and bonds that people own that we have to pay interest on constantly. We're headed towards a cliff, and Mitch McConnell's not going to stop us from going over.
And Terry, Jeffrey, it's a sobering assessment, but one that needs to be heard as interest is compounded by the seeming nanosecond on that national debt, and the spending continues from this administration and the acquiescence of Republican leaders. Terry, we thank you for your time. Jack, stand by. There's more to come, and you stay with us as well. Right now, Miranda Kahn with a Newsmax Now update.